Hello. Hi, guys. This is Lokesh from the Soul Freedom Show, and we have a special guest, Neil Gaur, today. And with me is also Kat, Nia. Both of us are going to be, actually, all three of us are going to be sharing things, what's going on right now, and things like spirituality, ascension, things like that. And welcome, Neil, and welcome, Kat. How are you guys doing?
And well, thank you for having me.
Doing well. Thanks, Sukesh.
Great. Neil, why don't you first introduce yourself just a little bit?
Yes, for sure. So, hey, everybody. My name is Neil, and I'm the founder of an organization called Portal to Ascension. I create events on conscious topics, like our name basically says it all, Portal to Ascension. But to me, what Ascension represents, there's many facets. It's not just, the spiritual information, the fact that we're shifting from one octave of existence into another octave or another dimension, but many facets when it comes to extraterrestrials, UFO disclosure, conscious nutrition, sacred sexuality, self empowerment, exposing the truth behind the monetary system and the fact that we don't own our money in the Federal Reserve and the corruption of that. So we've been doing events for quite some time. Around 12 years ago, I created a Facebook group called 2012 Consciousness, Mind Evolution, and Presence. And that morphed up until 2008 to Portal to Ascension. I started with doing small meditation events and sound healing events and channeling events. Around 6 years ago, I started an online university for consciousness. And now at this point, we started with one event a month, but now I have pretty much an event every single week, whether it's an all day online conference or a webinar, a solo presentation with different speakers. We do around 110 events a year. 80% of them are online. 20% of them are in person, like conferences, such as we were supposed to be in Atlanta on May 16th, but we had to postpone it. So we were going to do the True World History Atlanta conference, right, which was an all-day conference on our true ancient history, and that's part of. If I was to split Portal to Ascension into three things, three topics, and within those are hundreds of other topics, there would be evolution of consciousness, right, which is the ultimate end goal for it all. The ancient civilizations and true world history. So talking about what the ancients knew and the true history, not what we've been told, not what has been written by the victors and we've been taught in schools, but prehistory, even that goes before that. And then the truth of the extraterrestrial presence, not only the government side of it all, the UFOs, but the extraterrestrial awareness in regards to spirituality, um, how these how these beings interact with us, what they know about our history, our ancestry, and why they're spiritual in nature, and what agendas they have for us. So that's pretty much what we've been cultivating on our platform. I've worked with over 500 speakers on a constant basis. Some of them I produce everything for, like James Redfield, the author of the Celestine Prophecy. I produce all of his events. And then some of them I have just like agreements with where I do a couple of events a year. But at this point, we've become one of the largest conscious creators in the world where we're putting out like tens of thousands of hours of like curated, awesome presentations, footage, documentaries every single year. And the goal really is to empower people. Not only do we exist for as a platform for people that are already into this, that want to become the teachers of this new age that is emerging, right? So like
Mm.
if you're like, this is who I am, and when this is all coming out, I'm going to be one of the people informing the world. We give you the in-depth learning platform to really get all that information. But then we're also exist for those who are just waking up right now and don't know where to go. We're a one-stop shop for consciousness. You can go to our platform, and within a couple of weeks, if you spend your time on there, you'll pretty much go from not knowing any of this stuff to knowing almost, I can never say everything, but knowing quite a lot, right?
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty much why we're here. Is my mission on earth to really just create, be be a tool and a platform for other speakers to get their voices heard. And I've created the business side of it all, and I also speak and do presentations as well. And that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Feel free, Kat, to jump in, but I have one more question for you. So, how did it start for you, and who have been your kind of role models so far?
Oh yeah. Okay, so it started. All right, so you might be able to relate to this because we're both from India, right? I don't know. Were you raised Hindu?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I was raised Hindu, and I just followed all the rites and rituals that my mom and dad told me to do because that's just what you did, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't really have any firm belief. I wasn't devout, but I was Hindu. I was just raised in that. but I always kind of like just did what I was told to do. I was like an atheist Hindu because I had no beliefs.
Yeah.
Then when I graduated high school in 2000 and I was 17 years old, I started kind of questioning a lot of the things that I was coming across, and I went into Cal State Fullerton here in Orange County, and I started interacting with people from all over the world. And when I
Mhm.
was doing that, I was getting listening to different types of music. I was getting into different types of books, and I started researching online, and I was writing poetry at that time about universe, consciousness, who are we, that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
started Googling basically the words that I was writing in my poetry. And through that, I was, for example, I had a poem about like interdimensional travel and extraterrestrials. And then I started finding people like, this goes into who are people that I looked up to: Jordan Maxwell, Nassim Haramein, and Jim Self and William Henry. Those were like the four people I found in like 2001, 2002
Right.
through online videos by Googling the poetry that I was writing.
Oh.
And
Wow.
through that, I started finding out all this information about the Sumerian scriptures and the Anunnaki, which were these gods that came to Earth that, that claimed to be gods and could have genetically mutated us to create us in their image. And I started
Right.
drawing parallels to the Bible, to the Bhagavad Gita, and to the Quran and many other texts. But this is what actually took me back to Hinduism.
Right.
And now I started actually respecting Hinduism, whereas before I was just doing what I was told to do. Because in there, it was talking about vibration and frequency and quantum physics. And when I was
Yeah.
reading the Hindu text, I was realizing that's what they were talking about. They were talking about quantum physics, vibration, frequency, uh, techniques like yoga, meditation were all scientific quantum modalities in order to reach certain levels of consciousness. And it was truly a science. So when I realized that ancient spiritual texts through the route of Hinduism was actually talking about science, and I was already into quantum physics and space travel and the stars, then the alien component came into it. I was like, game over. So so from 2001 to 2008, I was just hardcore into all this stuff. I started with a lot of extraterrestrial stuff, but when 2008 came around, I was way into like the Illuminati, conspiracies. I was very much into fear. I started out with interest and curiosity, but I went deep into the fear of like, what the heck is going on? Who owns the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
do reptilians own the world, or are these beings like, are we
Mm.
part of pawns in their game, right?
Yeah.
And then 2008, I had an experience that moved me from the conspiracies and the fear into a love-based experience, and that's when Portal to Ascension was created in 2008. From then onwards, I've been creating events, but I had to go through the dark night of the soul. I had to go through the darkness, and then come back and realize that it was all love. And now I'm at a place where I appreciate. I definitely expose corrupt, things that are going on, but I appreciate the experience that this darkness is giving me, because that's truly why I feel we're here. We're here to experience this and learn and understand how to become light in a world full of darkness. And
Right.
how are we supposed to be light if we don't have anything to compare it to? Because light by itself is just is,
Yeah.
So we have that duality on Earth, and that's kind of what the mission and what the intention is of what we create.
Okay. You
Hmm.
probably know what I'm gonna ask next
No, I'm not
about.
psychic, bro.
We're all
No,
psychic at some point.
Yeah,
because you,
that's true. So you got me.
yeah, because you talked about the experience, right? So I mean, there's no way I cannot ask you about what really triggered the experience. Was it any
Oh yeah.
psychedelics or?
Okay, yeah. So you want to go down that route?
Yeah.
The reason why I actually started writing poetry was because I was doing
Yeah.
a lot of mushrooms. So the
Okay.
stuff on extraterrestrials, interdimensional travel, all of those poems came from mushrooms
Okay.
when I wasn't even into spirituality. So
Right.
definitely was a lot of psychedelics in the beginning, and then and now again, came back around. And but then in 2008, I met a group of people at open mic where I was performing poetry, and they just became my family. And
Yeah.
at that point, I just realized I was in such a dark place, that when I
Okay.
started sharing information with them and created this soul group, I
Okay.
just shifted from fear into love, and basically over one summer, 2008, and
Hmm.
then created events. And these people that I met at the open mic, including my wife Soul, she's a person I met there too.
Right.
um, we all started doing things together, doing musical events together, expressing ourselves. I never expressed or recited any of my poetry before, so I was getting a form of outlet of that, and I was teaching people about this information. So that all of those experiences combined over 2008 summer. Oh, and I got fired as a financial analyst and had to redefine
Oh,
myself.
good. Good
Because
job.
the crash of 2008, right? Like
Right.
a lot
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
financial analyst fired me because he blamed me for making the false trade. Well, even though he gave me the go ahead for it, right?
Yeah.
So after that, I decided to go into web design and redefine myself as a web designer. So I learned web design, and what was the first website I created? Some spiritual site.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like what happened. And I've actually, a lot of people I spoke to have had a huge awakening in 2008. It seems like that year was like a
Mm-hmm.
milestone for a lot of people spiritually.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like one of the waves that kept happening, and then there's 2012, and
Hmm.
then
2020.
2020.
We
It's like the
cannot forget
best one
about
yet
2020.
so far.
Yeah.
So some people are, have you heard this? Like they're saying in Ethiopia right now, it's 2012 right now. So they're saying Ethiopians were right about 2012. I don't know. There's so many conspiracy theories and
Hmm.
spiritual theories going on. But what do you feel, Neil, about the whole conspiracy theories about the virus being man-made versus being a natural? What do you feel about that?
Well, we did a podcast a couple of weeks ago called Coronavirus Conspiracy Theories. That was the name of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And we went over 40 different conspiracy theories. So
Wow.
there are so
Nice.
many, and a lot of
Yeah.
them seem like they could be legit, that I am not one to say exactly what it is, because a lot of people, they say that they know, but unless you're the person that did it, you don't really know,
Yeah, yeah, right.
And even if
Mm-hmm.
the person that you know is the person that did it, then I'm questioning who the hell you are, because why do you know that person, right? So there's got to be fragmented quite a bit. So
Yeah,
you got to use discernment. You got to realize that. And a lot of
Right.
people project their own belief systems on what
yeah,
they think is happening.
Yeah.
right.
For example, oh, I'm following, somebody's following Q, and Q is all
Yeah,
about exposing the sexual child trafficking, right?
pedophilia and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So therefore, this coronavirus has to do with that,
they're just trying
right?
to connect the dots somehow.
And
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
evidence to suggest that, but there's other evidence too. Go ahead, Kat.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically, there's like a part of our psyche that wants to constantly gain control over something that we have
Mm,
no control over, that seems like a chaotic thing that's happening societally. And in this case, with the coronavirus, it's global, you know. So, and
yeah,
I was sharing with Lokesh earlier that in order to discern something for it to be true, is that you look for three things. Is it consistent across the board with any kind of paradigm reality? If it's the same exact thing, and there's one theme and it's pretty consistent, then it could be the case.
yeah,
mm-hmm.
If it's persistent in a long standing time frame, it's the same exact thing, same theme, same story. If it's persistent enough with every single paradigm that you're exploring, then that could also be the case.
Right.
yeah,
And if it's insistent enough, from many different people, then it could also be the case. So those are three things to look for when you're discerning
right.
information.
Mm-hmm.
And also just listen to your heart and see what's really true for you.
Yeah.
So some people gravitate towards certain types of information because they feel that it's true, but not necessarily discounting the facts of if
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's consistent, persistent, and insistent all across the board. And in this case, it's not really something that we can ignore or just invalidate altogether, because all three things are present
Yeah.
globally.
yeah. I think you
So,
should write a book about it. That's a very good theory.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's definitely exactly. And what you basically mentioned there is that it still could be the case. Not
yeah,
once did you say it is, because there's always that doubt. So when somebody comes across saying this is it, this is how it's happened, you need to like follow back the trail of how
yeah,
they got to that understanding in the first place.
mhm.
And you'll almost always find it's because something not related validated their belief system that they kind of projected onto this, right?
Yeah.
So I think with now to answer your question about what I feel,
Yeah.
I do personally think that this is way too much to have been just some virus that mutated in order for us to get sick like this just randomly. And even I do know for sort of the science came out from the H1N1 when that happened, right? The
Yeah.
SARS one. The science, literally mainstream science, proved that that virus had too many different strains of different animals in it that it couldn't have happened unless those animals could breed with each other, right?
Right.
So it was definitely the hybridization.
Okay.
So we know it's happened in the past. So I think whether the Chinese government released it, whether the U.S. released it,
Right.
whether somebody in China was didn't like their own government and released it and wanted to ruin the economy and it had nothing to do with these governments, I don't
Yeah.
know. But I do think that the virus is real. People are dying for sure. But I just don't know how it began, and I don't know if we ever will. And it might be like 30, 40, 50 years before they even tell us the truth, because
Yeah.
that seems to be what
Mm-hmm.
happens. 30, 50 years later, they tell us the truth about something before, and people have moved on from it, and no one cares anymore. But
Yeah.
they've held to their contract with God, basically. If it goes back all the way to the Bible, they held to the contract that they need to tell us what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
this is where
Go ahead.
I knowing yourself really, really, really well comes in very handy, and having a mindfulness practice comes in really handy too,
Yeah.
because the discernment process with really tuning in and listening to what's true for each individual person can tell us with our own navigation with what's the origin, or like regardless of like where it originated from, maybe we'll never know, and just being okay with the
Mm-hmm.
unknown factors at this time
Yeah.
is good. And I think that's healthy, at least to not speculate too much, but also we want to know what what what's really going on, right? So, and I know I'm not the only person on the planet
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
curious about what's happening and why, what the big reasons are. And there's lots and lots of conspiracy theories and speculations being thrown out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
um, and what I know is the more that I hone in on my own personal practices, and the more that I, yes, like look at everything, the more that I can get a better holistic
Yeah.
point of view
Mm-hmm.
on like what the truth is, and like whether or not it originated somewhere. Like maybe like what Neil said earlier, like maybe we won't even get to find out until
Yeah.
science proves it later on, when we have more data and more information and it's been tested and proven out. Because it's science is, I'm really hoping that technology could play a large piece in it, and we're seeing that at this point with I live here in San Francisco, and there's lots of people banding, like coming together, that I've never seen before. With California in general is a very scientifically based leader
Yeah.
in that industry, with looking at how we can solve issues and find solutions on a global scale for lots of these things. And the way that I've seen communities come together from the technological space into science and spirituality all together, they really came together in such a beautiful cohesive way to find an answer, to find something, and it accelerated solutions, like giving out masks and like industries that are in need, like the healthcare system originally,
Yeah.
when it like places that really need it, they're constantly banding together
Yeah.
to help each other in that way, which is great. But I also know that we're all seeing that people that have had polar ideologies about
Mhm.
certain topics have now started to also have dialogues and conversations with
Yeah.
each other, which I think is so beautiful, because we're really looking at a brand new portal
Yeah.
to go into, and then we're in the chrysalis of in the whole thing, right? We're
Yeah.
in the the cocoon phase of like what is about to unfold in front of us. And I don't really know what it's going to look like. Some people are talking about, oh, there's AI now and social
Yeah.
singularity and how everything is changing. And um, how do we discern from
Mhm.
one thing to another? And like all we could just really give tools and information. And I think the most important thing at this time is coming together and coming
Yeah.
um, at a point where we can have these conversations and we can connect all the spiritual nodes of people. Like if I am like one node of the entire cosmic hologram of the societal structure we're all forming and co-creating together, then I feel that it is important to bring relevant information into this space that is discerning and that is not misleading
Hmm.
in that
Yeah.
space, and bring a lot of clarity into how we can move forward
Mhm.
in these these times,
Hmm.
especially with particular practices. And I'll just say that last time I met with Neil and Soul, I remember, Neil, you did a poetry rap song
Hmm.
that was pretty fantabulous. And I'll just put it out there into the world that if you're looking for an amazing, conscious poet slash rapper, that's Neil.
Thank you.
And yeah, so Lokesh, were you gonna say something? Or
I was like, there's so many rabbit holes we can go
I
into,
know
but
there's too many, so
but
we get it.
yeah, I was gonna go into first. I was gonna go into the 9/11 rabbit hole, but I think let's just forget
Hmm.
about that because
Mm-mm.
people still don't know that it
Oh
was
dear.
done by insiders. People, so that's why I was going to that. Even with this virus thing, we all have our
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Some
Hmm.
people don't even want to get to the or the conspiracy theory, controversial theories too. But I was also going to go to the second rabbit hole, which is how we resonate to things. Like for example, I resonate a lot with Bashar, the Daryl Anka
Yeah.
channel Bashar, and he just did a this last Saturday he did a channeling session, and
Hmm.
many people asked him the same thing: is this virus man-made or whatever? So he clearly
Okay.
says it's not man-made. So he says it's natural, but again, I resonate with him so much that I trust him probably 90 to 95%. I still have doubt in my mind, but
Yeah.
I think we all resonate with different people and different communities. I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, there's one truth, but then we all have different ways to look at it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So,
Yeah, I agree. And technically,
yeah.
everything that happens on Earth is natural to Earth. So even if it's man-made,
Oh,
it was.
yeah,
You don't ever know what
exactly.
the ETs are saying. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Because even human beings are natural. So if they're creating it, it's even natural, right?
Yeah, yeah. It depends what perspective he has. You know.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right.
Well, one thing that he did say is um because and this is something that I remember from the channel on this last weekend was um because the beings on that higher dimensional plane are vibrating at such a frequency of love and appreciation and just like a very um, different vibrational
Hmm.
frequency, dimensionality from the planet at this time, is that like they are bringing in like more of that to help humanity and human kindness all together
Mm-hmm.
into the new reality that is being presented to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I also listened and talked to an astrologer yesterday who's not a Western astrologer. practices Eastern astrology and combines. Let me see if I
Like
could
the
look it up.
Vedic? Is it the Vedic
It's
astrology?
not Vedic. It's the older system than that.
Okay.
I think he combines a little bit of Vedic astrology
Okay.
and another one. But basically, what he's saying is that in in this time, it was pretty consistent with how the virus appeared in December with astrological symbols.
Hmm.
And let's see if I could find it because there was a an eclipse that happened in December,
Mm-hmm.
and um, that's when it shifted paradigm realities into um, bringing bringing in a new type of consciousness on the planet. It's a celestial event according to him.
Yeah.
So the whole energy of the planet shifted in such a way from December in order for us to look at um, uh, all of the things that we've been doing societally as a
Mm.
species. So, in order to connect us into the higher dimensional frequency, which is our natural state to start off in the very beginning of humankind, then we had to go through this entire awakening phase in
Right.
order to reassess and reevaluate how we are forming structures and societies and how we are strengthening communities and how we as individuals are also looking at our own growth through
Yeah.
dealing with our not dealing with but like progressing through our own challenges personally and just really looking at the self more than anything and how that
Mm-hmm.
because the more work that we do with ourselves the more that comes out in our
Mm-hmm.
choices in our lifestyles in the way that we resonate with certain people and how we raise our own personal vibrational frequency is going to
Yeah.
ripple out into every single person on the planet. So
Right.
and what he's saying is and then he predicted timeline of when it's possibly going to shift, and he said that maybe around June or between in the next solstice
Uh-huh.
is another cycle of when we're going to see another change happen
Right.
globally. It's not just one country because it's an interplanetary scale.
Yeah.
um, he predicted that um, it's likely going to shift by um, June of 2020. So between
Okay.
June and August, September, possibly October of this year is when we'll see like two shifts happening. And it is also quite a big year for celestial planets. And my friend Jason, I did shamanic breath work with him a couple of days ago, and he told me that Pluto is in retrograde until like around
Oh,
October. And so when we talk
Mm.
about
interesting.
Pluto is looking at the shadow and
Yeah.
seeing the underworld. And so we're seeing that at this point it's being brought out into our conscious awareness globally on an interplanetary scale. So
Yeah.
it's really being shown to us that something that we have um, denied as part of the circle of life in order to acknowledge and know and be present to is now like being presented in such a
Yeah.
painful way.
Yeah.
But it's also a new birth, so like with a new you know look into that. we I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the butterflies but because I'm
Hmm.
outside.
Transformation right there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like another symbol of
Yeah.
transformation and
Hmm.
growth. And it's a new spring of conscious growth, and a new consciousness is being born through our entire interplanetary system at this time, and how we are going to form a whole new way of being and a whole new way of interacting with each other, and how we are forming systems.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, I feel
mean,
like I talked a lot on that, but I just wanted to share what I learned
yeah.
in the last few days.
No, that's
Hmm.
good to know. Yeah, that's what this is all about. I was also going to say the nature part of it, since we are talking a lot about nature, they're saying, a lot of the pollution has gone away,
Mm-hmm.
animals are coming out, and
Yeah,
that's a good lesson for all of us. Like, for example, working from home, many companies didn't think that, it's a good idea, but now companies are starting to think it's a good idea. So
hmm,
there'll be less traffic, less people traveling, so that's good for the environment. So there's a lot of good things
a
that are
lot
going
of
to
good
come out.
things.
Yeah.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. After having this conversation right now with you guys, I'm thinking I'm gonna do a podcast on all the possible positive outcomes from this, because
Yeah.
Yes.
the list, like, knowing that you have family and that you should take care of them, not
Mm-hmm.
taking
Yeah.
advantage of life and people, being grateful for having a job rather than being like, damn, I can't wait to be off, having
Mm-hmm.
some
Yeah.
time to sleep because you haven't slept for ages. Like
Yeah.
my wife's son went to school in Kelsey Fullerton, then graduated, then went straight to work, and now he's like 25 and he hasn't had one day off since he was in elementary school, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like and he's
Yeah.
finally had time off, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's like that's just a few of them. Like we can go on and on and on. And I think a lot of
Right.
people don't want to talk about the positive
Yeah.
things as much because it is a real thing that people are dying, and it's almost like you want to hold back your excitement for
Yeah.
what's possible, right?
Right. Right.
But and at the same
Yeah.
time, we're realizing how we ruined like Earth and nature, and just stepping away from Earth for just a month has literally made everything flourish again, right?
Yeah.
That's how resilient Earth is. Last
Yeah.
weekend in LA, people got like all like ants in their pants, and they started going out because they couldn't freaking stay at home because they've been home for too long, and
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden LA skies are polluted again in one
Yeah.
weekend,
I
right?
know. Yeah. It's crazy.
Dude, I'm getting the birds come out 5 o'clock in the morning, right, and they chirp
Yeah.
and stuff. They don't know what to do with themselves. They come out at 12 at midnight now
Really?
over here
Oh.
in LA. Yeah, they're seriously chirping like it's 5 a.m. at midnight up
Oh,
until 5 a.m. And I'm like, whoa,
amazing.
how much of the cycles of the planet and the animals are based on the fact that they have to work around the fact that we exist,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's what the
Yesterday I went
lesson is.
for
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
yesterday I went for a run outside our house, and I just came across a deer, and the deer has just been, out and about, and
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen animals come that close
Yeah.
and be so friendly because there's not as many people
Yeah.
to, it's like they're finally
Yeah.
getting, they're courageous enough to feel that, like, oh, the humans are actually not a threat to our survival, and are they're actually okay. And they're
Mhm.
friendly, and so we're just realizing that, yeah, there's a lot of positives, and it's so easy to, focus in on, because on the negative aspects of what's happening, because we are societally conditioned, from, for the beginning, to look at, the negative side of life, because that's our cognitive bias. In psychology we call it a cognitive bias, because there's two things happening, or like there's the survival part that wants to just come in and say, like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna focus on like the big tiger over
Mhm.
there, and so I'm gonna, like, run away, or freeze, or do something else, or like the mind will do that. But if you are
Mhm.
aware that that's happening inside you, and have conscious awareness of what's really present, you see that that's just a mind story, a narrative that doesn't really exist. So there's the discernment part, and then the other piece is, seeing like what my conditionings are. Even to this day, I look at, um, you know uh, how many times out of the day does that come up, when everything's
Mhm.
good and everything's beautiful and everything's safe? Like, I'm outside right now in nature, and I'm hearing the birds chirp, and here we are talking about the cognitive bias. I could just choose not to go in that mind space, because yeah,
Mhm.
it's there, but am I going to choose to look at that, or am I going to choose to really embrace this conversation and just really share that everything is good and amazing, and there's so many positives that are happening
Yeah.
on our planet right now. Like I've seen parents stay at home and spend more time with their kids and really get to know their kids, and
Yeah.
couples are getting closer with each other because they're spending more time with each other,
Yeah.
and they're really getting to know, oh, this is what you do during the day
Mm-hmm.
for your work. Then there's more compassion for that
Yeah.
person and how hard they really work for the other person
Right.
in their
Mhm.
household, rather than not knowing, what they're doing for most of the day, and then they come
Yes.
back and
Yeah.
there's like spend more time with me or whatever, because
Mhm.
they've been away, and so there's that being minimized. And so I'm doing counseling right now, so I'm sharing these insights because this is what I'm seeing with the changes in families, and families are getting closer with each other. There's less time being put emphasis on um working and grinding, and just really people finding their passion and finding their
Mm.
purpose, finding
Yeah.
um, their soul's calling.
Calling.
Like listening to
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
calling
Yeah.
and
Right. Right.
doing the calling, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful.
That's
Seriously.
great. Yeah. What else, Neil? What are your plans going forward with the Portal to Ascension? What's coming up?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first I want to just mention something about what you said about the Pluto retrograde, Cat.
Mm.
I looked it
Yeah.
up, right? So Pluto went retrograde on the 25th of April, so
Hmm.
5 days ago, and it's going to go direct on the 4th. And it's a trip
Yeah.
because Pluto in retrograde actually literally signifies the dark night of the soul, right?
Oh.
And we're all going through a collective dark night of the soul right now. Uh,
Mm.
and one thing that's kind of for many years now, I guess like for 6 years, I've been saying this to people that people need the basic needs met so that they can get a fight or flight, and then they can actually concentrate on what matters: relationships, family, love, friends, happiness, spirituality. No one
Yeah.
has time to feed their souls because we're too focused on like struggling to survive and paying for food
Yeah.
and rent, especially if you're like in places like California, right? Like it's freaking insane. So
Yeah.
so I was wondering, I knew that something was going to happen for us to ascend. The practical thing that would need to happen is people need to be able to have time to focus on other things and have
Hmm.
a dark night of the soul and realize, like, and to take a little detour that's kind of connected to this. When you say, when a lot of people say, I love myself, right? What I've come to realize is many people mean I love myself for my actions and who I am,
Hmm.
not for the fact that you simply exist and you're a divine being of creation. Many
Yeah.
people identify with things. I just had a great day. I did so many cool things. Oh, I love myself. Even myself with Neil, with Portal to Ascension years back, I'd be like, oh my God, I helped so many people today. This is so freaking awesome. I love myself. But that's all good. But at the same time, that's just the first level of love. That what it's really about is, can you love yourself for just the fact that you exist? And if you can
Hmm.
get to the point that you just love the fact that you're a spark of creation, and what you do and who you are and your job doesn't give you any more reason to love or hate yourself, then you're really like transcending physical reality and coming to something else. So what's happening now is a lot of people who have identified with their jobs, lawyers, like bankers, like all over the place, all types of people are now realizing that what they are and what they did, because many of these jobs have gone out of business. Even some of them completely aren't going to be able to
Yeah.
go back to what they've gone to
Yeah.
again. So 100,000
Right.
small businesses
Right.
at least are going to go completely bankrupt from this. So it's like, if you
Mm.
realize that what you thought you were isn't who you are, you either can get depressed from it or you can redefine yourself and realize you're more than that, right? So the dark night of the
Right. Right.
soul, Pluto, tying it back to what you said, Kat, it's freaking crazy that we're literally going through a dark night of the soul. People are now being disconnected from their jobs to the point that even people who still have essential jobs, it's not the same job anymore. It's like they're going to war every single day. That's how a lot of people are feeling. It's a lot of them
Yeah.
don't even want to go to their essential jobs because they feel like they might get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through
Yeah.
this dark night of the soul. Pluto has to do with it, and then Pluto goes direct on October 4th. And then one thing to add to that, right now Pluto is in conjunction with Jupiter, and I've known for quite some time now because my astrologist did this for me like 10 years ago. Jupiter and Pluto conjunct from each other signifies abundance.
Yes.
So we're going through a phase right now where we feel like we don't have enough, but we're realizing we have more than enough to take care of everyone. Right. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
hopefully we can come out of this in a way. What's going to happen after this? If they can't continue the way they've been doing business as usual, what if something like this happens again? The whole world goes on its feet. No, we need to put some on its knees. I mean, we need to put some things in place to make
Yeah.
sure that the world knows that we have enough abundance that can be distributed in a way that we never have to go without if we get into this situation again. So if we don't do that, then they're going to be in trouble, whoever they are, because most of the world, I think, is thinking like that. Like, dude, you can't let me go through this again, right?
Yeah.
You tell me we're going to go back to the way it was? That's not possible at all. So,
Right.
so the Jupiter, Pluto is just all making sense to me now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why there are alternative systems already in place that have been in support of what, just in case things happen. And we learned this from the financial crisis in 2008. So from then, other systems have been built, like blockchain, have been put in place in order to have the capacity to solve massive issues, just in case we experience the blackout, and we are like technically in the midst of like some kind of an awakening phase. And one of my teachers call it the blackout period, and there's going to be like phases of blackout periods of this type of level, because the way that we were doing things before is unsustainable. And if we look at nature, nature is inherently abundant in itself, and we are a direct reflection of the abundance. So going back to the Jupiter that you shared, Neil, is we have Jupiter inside all of us, and we have Venus inside all of us too. And so like going into like the balancing of our own conscious awareness and our own knowing that if I am a direct reflection of nature, then I am already abundant as it is. And I have the capacity to do all that, to trust in myself, to believe in myself, to know who I really am, and give whatever it is that I have in my own being in alignment and clear, purposeful alignment with what I know uh, I am here on this planet to do, to share with the community, to be in service to the greater whole, because that is the new paradigm. And I say it's a new paradigm, but really it's a very old system. We're just remembering to go back to it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
100%. All right. So should I get into what we got planned in
Yeah.
the months and years ahead?
Yeah.
All right. So lucky for us, most of our events are online, so we've actually been thriving during this time. A lot of people are coming to our events now. There are a few events. We had like 5 events scheduled live that I had to postpone. So the True World History Atlanta event is going to be pushed back to September in Atlanta. Billy Carson, where we're going to be with Billy Carson in Asheville and Atlanta in the next 2 months. We were supposed to be in Boulder with him last week. So we're doing something called the Forbidden Tour, because he has something called Forbidden Knowledge. And it's basically like we just did an event called Quantum Merkaba Manifestation, the science behind Merkaba meditation, and that you can actually use it to manifest reality. And then we're doing one with him called Akashic Records Science, the science behind Akashic Records. And then we have our next one with him is called Scriptures, Prophecies, ETs, and Atlantis. So we're going to go with him to Asheville, Austin, Sedona next year. We're going to do all our events online with him this year. And then on top of that, we have an event every week. This weekend we're taking off, but the weekend after that we have reintegration with ultra terrestrials. And ultra terrestrials are beings that live on Earth that basically we don't interact with, because they're either shift into a different dimensional frequency, or they like live in inner Earth, or they're elementals that don't interact with us because you know how humans are. Right? They don't want to interact with us. So it's about the future and us reintegrating with them. And the day after that, we have sound healing entrainment. So on our website,
Mhm.
portaltoascension.org, you can go there, look under online events. I have all my events scheduled from now up until April of next year. So 12 months of events are scheduled there. And then if you go to live events, you can see the tour we're doing with James Redfield from the Celestine Prophecy, the Forbidden Tour, our sound healing events. We have ongoing sound healing events. And
Mm.
right now, the way our website works is basically you can go to our website, sign up on the homepage, you get an email and a password, and you get back in access to our website. Our website is like Netflix for presentations. So we have 2,000 hours of free conscious presentations there, sorted by thumbnail, speaker category. You can search, you can add it to your watch list, you can continue watching later. So we've made an extra 500 hours of free footage available during this time because so many people are at home. We're giving people the opportunity to go and learn about information that they maybe never had time to learn about before. The key thing with this time that we're
Mhm.
in right now is a lot of people are picking up new skills. Many of us
Yeah.
are going to go back into the rat race right after this, right? Because who knows, maybe the system will be completely reformed, but some people are just going to be like, damn, back to work. So right now is the best time to learn and be informed and move forward with a stable foundation, and Portal to Ascension is one of many places where you can do that. You
Okay.
sign up, get access to information instead of watching Netflix. Actually, I watch Netflix myself, so maybe split it 50-50, you know. Watch your show at night, do Portal Ascension during the day. So you can sign up there, and you'll get emails, updates on all the events we're doing. We're just basically picking up momentum. I'm hiring a couple of people right now, and we're just creating a stable organization that will continue to be like a pioneer of this information in the years and decades to come.
Are those videos also on YouTube, or are they only on your website?
So we have a YouTube, youtube.com/portal to ascension, but that's only 1% of all of our footage on our website. It would take too long to curate them all. So our website, since it
Okay.
works like a video archive with where you can search and all that, we
Yeah.
have more flexibility putting it up on our website than we do with YouTube. Plus, we're getting censored on
Okay.
YouTube quite a bit too. YouTube's been censoring us and demonetized our account and all that. So we're moving away. We created
Oh.
our own. It's
Yeah.
entirely customized by ourselves. We created our own entire video archives
Okay.
that run even better than YouTube. I took the
Uh,
best out of YouTube,
Mm.
the best from Hulu, and the best from Netflix, and I custom coded my own platform.
That's
So
the best way to do
oh,
it.
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
exactly. Hmm.
Nice. And is it like a membership you have to sign up with to see those videos, or
So if
how
you
does it
sign
work?
up, it's free membership, and you get a couple thousand hours for completely free. And every month
Okay.
there's another like 20 hours added every month. So if you signed up
Okay.
for free, you will never run out of stuff to watch for the rest of your life, right?
Okay.
But if
And
you
then it's also a paid membership. Okay.
see,
Yeah.
so we don't do paid memberships because we sell tickets per event. So for
Oh,
example,
okay. Got it.
last weekend we did a 2-day workshop with William Henry called Ascension and the New Humanity. That was like
Mm.
we did that one by donation or $77. So we had people not
Okay.
pay, people do donation, whatever. And then
Uh,
once that's over, if you paid for it, it gets loaded into your archives.
I
You
see.
know.
Got it. That's a good model because people have these paid memberships, but once you pay, sometimes you watch them, sometimes
Yeah.
you don't. But this is a good model that all the live events you get to buy those tickets, but then the rest of the videos are free.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a very good model.
And we give 70, depending on the speaker, 60 to 75% of all the ticket money goes to the speaker. So we're actually
Okay.
um, I can honestly say this just because I know almost everyone that's doing this on a big level in the community, that we provide an income source to the most conscious presenters across the board on every topic than any other platform in the world, constantly paying them out 70% of the proceeds. And we're funding things from sustainable communities to research behind free energy devices to people that are going around traveling the world talking to whistleblowers. So the money that you contribute to us is going out to fund all of these different platforms that are designed to create this new reality that we know is possible.
Right. Wow. That's
Hmm.
very exciting. Maybe we can get into a little bit about what people can do, like, at this time, challenging times, like maybe Kat and Neil. I would love to know, some of the things we already talked about, like watch Portal to Ascension videos, things like that. But what other things like meditation or go out for walks in nature? What other things people can do in these challenging times so that when all this thing is over, we're back to, refreshed selves?
Go for it, Kat.
Yeah, I would say doing
Mhm.
a lot of self care. This is like
Yeah.
the best time to hone in
Right.
on your self care practice. Going to bed on time and
Yeah.
like catching up on sleep because our bodies need it, and not watching crazy
Yeah.
stuff on your
Right.
devices, but really knowing and curating your conscious awareness in a particular way
Right.
that you know is going to
Yeah.
move you in a direction that is empowering and that is healthy and that is
Uh,
within your own space of wellness.
Mhm.
And breathing in and exhaling it out and just really honing in on your self-care piece and taking good
yeah.
care of yourself, because if we can take care of ourselves way more than anyone else, then the more that we can give out to other people. That's so important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely,
Yeah.
100% agree. And to add to that is like what we're having people realize now is health matters, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
use this time. The search engines, the search engine keywords have increased for health products, right? And for how to improve your immune system, what foods and vegetables to eat. So we're seeing a
Yes.
lot of people moving towards that.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And a lot of people are ending conversations now with "be healthy, stay well." Text messages, "be healthy." Like the amount of text messages
Yeah.
have ended with that. That's pretty cool, right? So people are really starting to
Yeah.
think about how can they be healthy. And after this, if you don't want to get this again, or you want to be fortified before, because what's happening? Who's being affected? People with the most compromised immune systems.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Also, the people that are smoke cigarettes and people that are obese, right? Like
Yeah.
overweight people and people that smoke cigarettes are the worst affected from this thing. You look at the state with the most deaths, New York. They have the most cigarette smokers. You look at this the country in Europe with the most deaths, Italy. They have the most cigarette smokers in the whole of Europe.
Even China too,
Yeah,
right?
China too, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like I'm hoping what we can get out of this is a better understanding of health and wellness, so that what has been happening, you guys know about Monsanto and how there's a war on our food supply, and that the US is an experiment for how much crap they can feed us without realizing, basically. So it's like that's
Yeah.
what I want to get out of this. That's why we're doing some events on health. On our podcast, we bring on people talking about the immune system, but then the media won't talk about health. Why won't they
Yeah.
talk about it?
Yeah. Right.
The Canadian government released a press release saying that they wanted to expose conspiracy theories that eating certain foods and vegetables can improve your immune system. Nothing can help. They literally said that. I read it. It was like stamped Canadian government. And it's just like, why
Yeah.
would you say that? Of course it is. Like what you put in your body is going to fortify you
Yeah.
from this whole thing. I don't remember the last time I got the flu. I seriously do not remember. I don't
Mhm.
5, 10, no, 10,
Yeah.
15, 17 years ago. I don't freaking know.
Mhm.
And so I already have a belief
Right.
system that I will never get sick. Like I don't even freaking think about getting
So, do
sick
you
from
take any?
herbs and stuff.
So, do you take any supplements or anything like that?
Yeah, I take a lot of cool stuff. I love experimenting with different supplements and changing it up. I just make sure they don't have fillers in them, that they're as pure as possible. Vegetable capsules, and then like for example, we just finished a regimen of oregano pills, and oregano is like viral freaking like zapper, right?
Mhm.
So and then I'm taking so we know, like we've heard that the coronavirus affects your respiratory system, your lungs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm taking this lung support, respiratory support thing that's basically 10 different forms of fungi and mushrooms that are all about supporting your lungs and your breathing. So I'm just
Uh huh.
taking all these different things. And then we just did a Purium cleanse, which is basically a green juice that you basically take all day. There's a powder, like 2 cups of vegetables in each one. And we were doing that during the day and then having a homemade soup at night, because I
Mhm.
don't like to, like, sometimes I don't want to just cleanse because I don't get to eat what I really want and I want something nice at night, you know? So like we're doing something like that in order to keep our immune systems up, keep our vibration up so that
Yeah.
we aren't susceptible to these sicknesses.
Right. Right. What
Hmm.
about you, Kat? Anything special you're doing these days?
Um, Special. I mean, I kind of kept the same exact routine. Um,
Mm,
I just upped a little bit. So just eating very healthy fruits, vegetables, and luckily, we have a
mm-hmm.
local organic farm stand that it's within walking distance, and just
Nice.
really getting to know what is around me
Yeah.
and connecting with
Yeah.
the local environment. And so the more that you can spend time outside and connect with the resources in a local area, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
As far as food is concerned, I really just like to keep it simple and only eat fresh organic veggies and mainly plant based.
Hmm.
And if I do eat any kind of protein, then I'll make sure that it's sourced ethically, and make sure that it's good and it's healthy and it's done in a sustainable way. Growing my own veggies and herbs. So that's very important as well. That's kind of something that I've decided to increase. And water, and I remember in our last podcast with Neil and Soul, we talked about the importance of water and our water sources. That is a big thing. It's very simple, but
Yeah.
you got to know where your water sources are coming from. You got to know
Yeah.
what's in your water. We consume water pretty much every single day in order to hydrate. Hydration is
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
Our water is in our bodies, our fuel a lot of systems cellularly, and is
Yeah.
also a catalyst for detoxification. So it's very important to keep things functioning in a healthy way. So knowing where your water source is, knowing that you have good water sources that is clean and it's non-fluoridated and it doesn't have any of the crazy stuff
Yeah.
and metals and all that stuff in it. So just making sure that your water source is good is a very important thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Vitamins, just sticking to. I mean, I try to stay away from like vitamin recommendations because what I believe is that everyone is going to know their bodies and what works for them
Hmm.
way
Mm,
more than I will or anyone else. So some people will recommend other, here and there, and you can try it out. I think that's really good. But what I do
Hmm.
believe is that the future of medicine is holistic medicine, where it's incorporating the mind, the body, the spirit,
yeah.
and our highest awareness all together in our own conscious awareness by trusting
Hmm.
ourselves and listening more into the body and what we need, and it feeds that. And then moving forward with, does this particular thing fuel me and energize me and expands me to a certain level that I know I am vitalized and bringing more life into my well-being and tapping into that wellspring. So it's going to be different for everybody, so just really
Yeah.
listen to what the body needs. And somebody might be able to consume dairy and I may
Hmm.
not. So and that's good for them, but not for me. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's wonderful. So um
Yeah.
and everyone has a unique, I call it a unique energy
Yeah.
signature. So knowing what that is also good to
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
and very important. So yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like for me, I like to go for walks and get some sunlight because, especially because of
Hmm.
this working from home thing, we don't move so much. I
Yep.
think the best thing that I feel I'm doing for myself and I also suggest to others is, although they're saying go at home, but I think even Ralph Smart Infinite Waters, he says that a lot. He says just get out of the house. Like it's a very
Yes,
good time to be out, get some
absolutely.
sunlight, especially they're saying, sunlight
Yeah.
also kills the virus, but not just for the
Hmm.
virus, just overall it's great to have sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
um
that's doing is
yeah.
connecting with nature, grounding that energy
Yeah.
of being on a device for too long, touching the computer or like your phone.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and connecting with the
Right.
elementals, because we have all the elementals inside our bodies and inside us already. So really connecting with the environment and in their
Yeah.
local environment is increasing immunity. It's
Yeah.
literally increasing your physical vitality. So if you look at a computer game, if I was an avatar in my holographic field of awareness in my mind, and I had, the little bars on the computer game of life of where's my vitality level? Is it increasing or is it like decreasing, right? So, and
Right.
you
Right.
have to
Yeah.
know what your levels are in order to um,
Yeah.
feel into
Yeah.
how you can deepen more into that, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Right.
yeah.
So yeah, Neil, any last words before we wrap up? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just add to that last part first. And like for
Yeah.
myself, I'm vegan, and Soul, my wife, she was pretty much 100% vegan up until like 2 months ago. Now she's like 95%. She like, we're basically flexitarians. We eat what we feel good when it feels good. And for me, it's been vegan food for a few years, right? But you
Hmm.
don't
Right.
get certain nutrients. You don't get silica.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
vitamin D and vitamin B are very low. The
Yeah.
sun gives you what? Vitamin D. Almost
Hmm.
every person that goes to get a physical and gets their levels checked in the US are low on what? Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Almost
Yeah.
all over the world. And the reason why is because ever since the Industrial Revolution, we went from the farms to the cities, and we're all like locked in buildings now, away from the sun for so long. What decalcifies your pineal gland? Scientifically proven. Vitamin D. Why did the Egyptian sun gaze? Because it
Yeah.
was a decalcification, right, of the pineal gland, the third eyes. So we need vitamin
Yeah.
D. It took me two
Yeah.
years to find a good vitamin D source that's basically like nanoparticles vitamin D that absorbs straight into your system. Vitamin D also gets absorbed the best way through fat. So the reason why, if you're vegan and you're not eating enough fats and you get vitamin D, it doesn't get absorbed, so you're lower in vitamin
Okay.
D. If you don't get enough silica, you go gray quicker and your hair gets all brittle. So, and your skin and nails get brittle. So I don't know if you've ever seen people that said, "Oh, I'd go vegan," but I've seen those people that are vegan so scrawny. Like I heard that a lot, right? Like unhealthy vegans. It's because they're not
Yeah.
getting these nutrients. So I'm doing diatomaceous earth, which is basically fossilized algae, and it's the
Mm.
highest
Hmm.
in silica in the whole entire planet. And what's happening is we're moving from carbon based to silica based anyway, right? So it's a
Mhm.
good thing to support. So I'm taking those. I'm telling this basically. I'm talking to the vegans out there. Silica, vitamin D, and B supplementation. You would be like almost like you're just eating whole foods anyway. Like you'd basically
Mm.
cover all the bases, and you won't be lacking anything as a vegan. So that's
Hmm.
kind of what I do, and I feel great from it. I've been doing it for 3 years. Haven't had any issues not eating meat or having dairy. Now,
Yeah.
in regards to Kat, you wanted to say something about
No,
that?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So to go into like, I just feel now we just got to sit back and observe. We, as I said before, we can't go back into business as usual. Things need to shift from this world. A lot more people are
Yeah.
gravitating towards the information that we're talking about, and what just happened was unprecedented. It's so unexpected. Uh, if something like this can just happen like that, and it can just change the way we think and perceive ourselves in the world, anything is possible. If you look back in history and you look at all
Yeah.
the plagues and diseases that happened, they literally were the most defining moments in human history, and things have changed from it.
Right.
Every single,
Yeah.
every time the most
That's good.
advancement.
Sorry, your voice was
Okay,
breaking up. Go ahead. Go
okay,
ahead.
no. Every single advancement that has ever occurred in humanity has come right after great calamity or
Hmm.
tragedy.
Right.
Every
Right.
single time.
True.
When we're
Yeah.
just coasting, humans tend to chill off for a bit, and then the governments try to manipulate them. This has been a global humanization. We've all been humanized. Banks have been humanized. The CEOs have been humanized. We're all in the same boat. Why do you think your bank is telling you they're going to waive fees for you? Because they got grandmothers and grandfathers too, right? They're
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
it was just Indian people from Punjab were getting this, do you think Wells Fargo would be like, hey, what's going on, right?
I know.
No, but because we're
Yeah.
all going through it, everybody's more willing to make some changes and shift.
Yeah.
So it's got rid of that hierarchy element. We're all on the same
Yeah.
playing field right now, bosses and
Yeah.
students,
Right.
teachers, and everything.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping we can continue with that into the near future. I'm really like, I'm honestly extremely excited to see what's going to come out of this on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
Yeah.
I said earlier, we are at a time right now where our human evolution is so amazing at this time, and the things that we are seeing that are coming out of this is so incredible, and we're building systems that have never been seen before, and that we are going to come out of it more resilient, more stronger than ever together. And I think that's the key,
Hmm.
is to come together to make sure that you are taking good care of yourself. So I'll just go back to the nutrition piece for a second here before I stop talking. And I found a list of very good things that, because I know you asked earlier what I did for to up my
Mhm.
vitality
Yeah.
levels. And so goji berries are super
Mm.
amazing. Schizandra,
Mm.
phycocyanin, which is like a blue green algae that you can find online, and that's been a game changer for me, especially if you're plant-based. It's really good, high in antioxidants and very high in protein, and just really really much better than a spirulina. And
Mm.
spring water, I already talked about. Sea salt, incorporating that. What I like to do is put some sea salt in my water in the morning, and hydrate just a little bit, not a whole lot. It produces electrolytes, and kind of powers you up. And for the rest of the day, chaga and some lemon. So those are just some suggestions. Um, but going into the systems, really, when we take care of our internal system first, like our mind and our spirit and our bodies, and have that in complete alignment, then the systems outward will follow. And the more people do this individually, the more large scale societal change we're going to see on a positive level. That's how it works. And so when I talk about a self-organizing system, our consciousness has a ripple effect of how it works on the outside on the larger scale. When we work on ourselves so much with how our own system is functioning, like what Neil was saying, is that large organizations will just follow in that direction, because we're the ones that
Yeah.
are making the change. And so
Hmm.
if we want to see change happen on a positive large scale level, we got to start with ourselves first. You got to be the change that you want to see on the planet. We just got to start there.
Straight up.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a very positive and healthy note to end on. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Neil, for joining us. Portal to ascension.org. And thanks, Katrina, Maria Katrina. I think earlier
It's
I
Cat.
said Kat. Yeah, but for your first name is Maria, or is it Katrina? Katrina, what's
It's
your
my
first name?
website. Just call me Cat.
Kat.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kat, and thanks, Neil. And thanks everybody for joining. This is Lokesh from the Soul Freedom Show, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Lokesh.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Neil. Thank you.
Bye.